Nkosi sikeleli Afrika, maluphakanyisa udumo layo, izwa imithandazo yethu, Nkosi sikelela.
My name is George Martin. I was formally dismissed by CNNC Rossing Uranium in 2020 with 8 other comrades of the BEC, which stands for the Branch Executive Committee of the Mine Workers Union. We've been trying to get justice for our case for the past 3 years now. Our case has been delayed through the labor system. Usually the labor law says that when a case is brought to the Labor Commissioner's office, it should take about 6 months to be finalized. Our case has taken about, it's still at arbitration phase, and we have been fighting for the past 3 years to get our justice. Just a short summary is we were dismissed because of being union members. We fought for our members. We stood up against the company's violations on conditions of employment, which are our medical aid schemes. They wanted to change our retrenchment policies, our disciplinary codes, and it's because of that we found ourselves without jobs today. 2 of our members could not continue the struggle. They decided that they are going to settle because of the harsh conditions that we are faced with outside, because we still had, as workers, we had houses that we bought through the banks, cars that we bought through the banks. And imagine if you are sitting at home and looking for a job for 3 years and you are not getting permanent employment. At the end of the day, the banks and the creditors will come and collect what is theirs by agreement. So that's why 2 of our comrades settled. We are currently 7 that are still struggling on and fighting on. And we are, our cry for the international community to help us is to help us fight our case through the International Labor Organization Court, so that we can fight the China National Nuclear Corporation through that court, because it is an international company. We feel that they have violated our fundamental rights of having the freedom of association to join any political or union organization that you want to join. So we feel that Rossing as a company, or China National Nuclear Corporation as a company, is a huge organization, and they are being represented at this labor court by an advocate and 3 lawyers, while we are only having 1 lawyer. And you can see that they are bringing up technicalities that are not there. And we feel that the arbitrator is also somehow compromised, because during our arbitration process, the arbitrator continued with our case. We had substantive fairness and a procedural fairness in our case. So the case continued with that. After in March 2029 to March 2023, the arbitrator made the ruling that the procedural element in our case is not part of our dispute. Apparently, we did not file a procedural unfairness in our case, of which we thought that it is unfair. Our lawyers also put in a dispute or a review for the decision, because an unfair dismissal is made up of substantive fairness and unfair and procedural fairness, in which the arbitrator continued our case, and in the middle of the case decided that the procedural element in the case must be removed because the parties agreed, of which one party, which is us, the applicants, did not agree to any of those things. And that makes us believe that the arbitrator would not be fair if he has to give his ruling because he's already siding with the company. So we are pleading and appealing to the international comrades that they help us in a way that we get an international lawyer that can at least assist us in filing our case to the ILO so that they can hear our case.
Maybe you can talk about other mines that have been taken over, both uranium and marble mines, and the effect on the miners in Namibia with this Chinese investment.
The first mining company that I'll talk about is Bestshare. In 2019, these comrades went on a 3-month strike. After the strike, the company decided to strategically get rid of strong vocal union leadership, and they decided to retrench these comrades. They were retrenched shortly after the strike, and they filed their case with the Labor Commissioner's Office, of which they received their verdict or the outcome of the case 2 months ago, and they won their case on a default judgment where the company could not appear in court. So the arbitrator just gave them a default judgment and they won their case. The second company that I'll talk about, Beifang, is also Bestshare is a 100% owned company by the Chinese. The Chinese company that used to work about 145 kilometers from SWAPO. The second mining company is Beifang Mining. It's also a Chinese-owned company that also dismissed the entire branch executive with 5 members of the union. These members were dismissed for attending a disciplinary hearing of their chairperson that was unfairly dismissed also. Their case was also filed with the Labor Commissioner's Office, and they are still struggling to get a judgment from the arbitrator. And the company decided that they are not going to entertain anything that comes from the Labor Commissioner's Office. So they decided that they will just ignore anything that comes from the Labor Office. These comrades have been dismissed in 2019. Up to now, they are still waiting for an outcome from the Labor Commissioner's Office. The third company that I want to talk about is Rossing Uranium. Before we were dismissed in 2020, the contractors that worked on the mine were local contractors. There were no foreign companies that worked as contractors on the mine. Currently, as we speak now, the entire mining section is tendered, and it's a Chinese company that took over the whole open pit mining section. The company name is Beifang. They are going to take over the whole operation, and 400 permanent employees are being retrenched and being replaced with temporary workers, with casual workers. So these are things that are happening. People are losing, employees are losing their jobs, their permanent jobs, and they are being replaced with contract jobs where you don't have benefits like medical aid, pension, bonuses, and those things. You just get your pay, and that's all. And you work in harsh conditions without any benefits.
Hewat Beukes is on, who is a labor lawyer and activist socialist in Namibia, has been fighting for many years, decades and decades, for the working class of Namibia. So welcome, Hewat, and maybe you can talk about the struggles going on in Namibia. Not only your own struggle, you're being sued by the Chinese National Nuclear Corporation, and they want to put you in prison, but also the struggle, the fishermen, all workers in Namibia who are under direct attack in every area. So welcome.
what we are dealing with these days are the from various quarters where we get papers and positions that are fundamentally the same, and that is to sell China, the Chinese Russian axis, as a sort of panacea for the ills of society, and that the so-called global South shall rally around this axis. The experiences in Namibia is that the Chinese are in the forefront. The Chinese state is in the forefront of smashing union rights here, and the gains that the working class has made over the past 50 years in terms of union rights, democratic rights, etc., the right to organize in unions and to withhold their labor as a basic right has been first of all slowly eroded, but with the entrance of the Chinese, it's a front on destruction of these rights. This is expressed quite clearly in the Rossing situation, in which they have now, they first rid themselves of the executive committee of the mine workers union at the Rossing in 2020. They fired them for union activities, and they made it an unfair dismissal situation, which it was not. It was just clearly the total destruction of the union, the right to freedom of association, etc., and the renunciation of the collective agreement. And that is what they've been doing around the country. Late last year, they have declared and they've offered the workers voluntary retrenchment, and they've now reduced employment to, I think, at the end of this year. I'm not quite certain I knew the date, but I think by the end of this year, the employment situation at the Chinese mines will be reduced to contract, purely contract, as with no benefits or no permanency, etc. And of course, a complete destruction of rights, benefits, etc. This is what they have done to them. And of course, it is in the Western imperialist countries are in favor of this. There is this silent approval of the state of affairs. The working class at the moment do not have coherent leadership. There are definite resistance, but the outstanding matter is for them to engender a proper leadership with a proper conception of what shall be done. And that is the outstanding problem. The militancy of the working class more or less remains, but with extreme unemployment, obviously it is extremely demoralizing, and there is just despondency and confusion, even though there are militant strikes around the country, and they are in dire need of establishing a leadership that can give proper leadership. This is the historic task that we saddled ourselves with, and in which we try to assist the working class to create such a leadership. That is the situation in Namibia. In the meantime, we have been bombarded with so-called Global South initiatives, as I've said, that promotes the idea that the so-called third world countries, as they call them, shall rally around this BRICS initiative, and this is the way out from the stranglehold of Western imperialism over the rest of the world. That's more or less the idea around it. Nothing is said about the role of the working class. Nothing is said about the strengthening of working class states, or creation of working class states and the strengthening of it. The idea is that the Chinese bureaucracy shall be the redeemer of the world proletariat. But it is quite characteristic that nothing is said about the working class taking political power as the only way out, not only for the working class, but for humanity as a whole.
It's clear that this union busting by the Chinese National Nuclear Corporation is not unique. As David was reporting, the same is going on in Latin America and Peru, that they're buying companies, they're buying mines, they're buying natural resource companies, and then they're busting the union and bringing in contract labor. So the fight against contract labor and privatization is not only going on in Namibia and South Africa, it's going on throughout the world. And it's combined with what US companies, US corporations and capitalists are doing here in the United States, where they're privatizing Medicare, they're privatizing public jobs, turning them over to nonprofits, quote unquote nonprofits. On a global scale, the working class faces a massive attack on public services and the wealth, the resources for the purpose of increasing profits. That's really what's going on.
Union members currently that are working or that are having permanent jobs are being threatened by companies like Rossing in terms of telling them that if you want to be a union member, a vocal union member, we'll make an example like we did with the Rossing dismissed, or the BEC that they dismissed. So they are being victimized like that. One such comrade was our previous BEC chairperson that was also dismissed without going through a hearing. He was just dismissed with a letter. And those things are happening now, and companies are looking at this trend that Rossing has caused, and they are following that trend. So I don't know, union organizations here in Namibia are a bit they are not standing up for their people. They are quiet when it comes to their members that are being dismissed. They just want members to be paying union fees, but they are not really standing up for members.
And what is the role of the SWAPO government in Namibia, Hewat?
Yeah, can I just first explain this myth of West against East? The German government has been giving out contracts here. In the last one is a big contract, a road construction contract, which its conditions of tender was that only Chinese contractors shall be considered. And the local road contractors need not apply for the tender. The entire road system that is being developed in this country is being funded by Germany, and it's using Chinese contractors. And the newest development is that the Chinese, the government of Namibia is moving the idea that China should be freed from visa requirements to this country. Now, that should not really have raised eyebrows because all these imperialist countries have visa-free entry into the country. But the situation, if one links it to the labor situation, it is quite ominous, because with these Chinese companies getting preferential treatment and so on, it tells us, and there are Chinese workers imported to this country, while there is 50% unemployment in the country. It is most definitely linked to this question of importing Chinese labor into the country. So that is the present situation. It is a very, very critical situation. And the reason why they attack a person like myself as a leader of a working class organization here, as probably the leading working class organization in this country, assisting and giving direction to the working class, is not perchance. It is part of that attack on the working class. And it takes on ridiculous forms. A person like myself, I've been involved in the liberation struggle all my life. I have done my share of sacrifice and so on, and I'm a known freedom fighter of this country. But they are trying to humiliate me at the moment. They are dragging me to magistrates' courts and all sorts of tricks to try and arrest me. And in the case when I was with the Rossing workers in court, they gave costs against me. That was without any reason. They slammed costs on me. And now they're dragging me to the magistrates' courts to humiliate me by I should go around to the banks and get letters from the bank to say that I do not have a bank account with them, and I should bring strips of paper, receipts of the food that we buy. And this case is now set for the 17th of August, that I shall attend in the magistrate's court. And should I not turn up, they will arrest me. They will issue a warrant of arrest for me. Now, and then it's bloody pipsqueak of a person who's the magistrate and who's trying to patronize me and humiliate me in court. Those are the little tricks that they are using. On the 1st of November, an appeal of my wife and I is set down in the Supreme Court about my house. They've cut the water and electricity as part of the persecution around it. And this has been going on since the country became independent. It's not a new thing. Mathematics book that I wrote, they have these two writers of the state have stolen it, and I could do absolutely nothing about it. They have persecuted my wife, myself. The problem is that the working class individuals in this country go more or less, they are being treated in much the same way as we are being treated. So it is not a unique thing, but in this case, it's a very specific political attack on us. And we are trying to face it as best as we can. We've had very good support from comrades around the world, and a comrade like Comrade Zelser has played a mammoth role in publicizing this. And this is actually an example of how we should solidarize around the world against this kind of activity. And we should work out proper tactics and strategies around this. That is the situation. We are under full attack. The irritating thing about it is that we can't do the things that we ought to do. That is to develop the theoretical part of our struggles, because they keep us off balance all the time. You have to spend your time working out things like legal arguments, etc., and all sorts of preparation. In our case, we have to drag drums of water from comrades in other parts of the city and take it here. And it's the same with we've got solar energy now. Now they are coming. The other day they came and they said we are not allowed to install solar panels without the permission of the municipality. Yes. And we had to put up a whole argument to show them that our case is the house case, and the water and electricity is still pending in the courts of this country for the past 18 years. These are the things that they do to us. We are not complaining in the sense that this is what you can expect if you are in a struggle of this magnitude, and that in an oppressed country, and with a comprador state that has not an iota of morality or ethics on its side. The most horrific things are happening around here. The resources of this entire country is being squandered, and its people are oppressed. Nevertheless, if these societies do not develop working class leadership with a proper conception, the things are deteriorating. And if we do not begin seriously to establish and international edifice of the working class in the oppressed countries and the developed countries, the imperialist centers. We can kiss this earth goodbye. That is the objective. And the theories around this global south and so on are really anti-working class theories trying to divert the issue of building a working class leadership as the only redemption that this earth can experience. So that is the situation. Namibia is a microcosm of that explodes these myths, created all sorts of myths about global south and I presume the global north, etc. It's one continent, and nobody of these people who suggest or propose a bureaucratic solution to the world's problems, because that is what you are doing if you are talking about China and Russia. The thing with this Wagner group, as far as I can see, I don't have very close knowledge of the group, but what I've read and what I've tried to get to is that they are a mercenary group, a state mercenary group that is at the disposal of these despots, African despots, to control recalcitrant masses of people. And I understand they commit massacres, etc. But I think that is not such a widespread situation. They are working, if that is what they are doing, they're actually working in line with the policies of the French, the British, and the Americans. So in the last analysis, they work they work to suppress the masses for their resistance against a new colonialism. That is the only thing that they do. In Southern Africa, they will not find a place because of the relative strength of the working class in Southern Africa. We see them as part of the imperialist domination of African countries for pure exploitation.